Hello, hello, hello.
discomfort, I think, for everybody across, all asset classes. But I sense that, we're nearing a time when bad news is no longer going to mean good news for stocks. The economy has started to weaken along the fringes, not major weakness, Grant. Even the labor market has seen weakness. So, yields have already pulled back very, very sharply. My thinking is yields and the dollar are close to a short-term floor, which means, further deterioration in economic data likely would be more of a negative than a positive for stocks. Yields likely bounce, potentially starting tomorrow, potentially next week after the Fed unveils its plan. We get more clarity, and then we probably see a little bit of a rally between now and into October. But, granted, we're in a dicey time. Historically, it's been difficult when the S&P does lose ground the first 4 days in a very rapid session, being down 4% on the first week of September. Very, very difficult to get our heads around what's moving, but a lot of it is technology. And if investors take the time to research, all these other sectors are acting phenomenally well up until the last couple of days. And like today's weakness in financials is really a drop in the bucket. It's not the signal of a major top in financials, in my view. Banks are going to be able to weather this, but rates have been headed lower for the right reasons. So,
JP Morgan at $200 a steal. We got a bank analyst on later. We're going to have to ask him if he agrees.
We're going to buy him, Mark, see if he agrees.
Yeah, exactly. Good to see you. Thanks for
Likewise,
coming in.
thank you.
Really
It's the same
appreciate
way.
it.
I happen to love to buy things that are kind of the diamond in the rough, so to speak, shine them up and build them into companies. So that's what I've done. Anything that you can create something with and make it better, you can make money with it. So you have to have that mindset when you're actually in the business world. And that's how you become a serial entrepreneur.
What's up, guys? It's your boy Ross Mack, and welcome to Financial Freestyle here on Yahoo Finance. Now, look, no matter where you're at in your financial journey, look no further because you're in the right place, because we're going to actually help take it to the next level, because I'm talking to some of the greatest minds in the industry. And today, I'm honored to be talking to Ms. Carolyn Aronson, stylist, founder, and CEO of It's a 10 Hair Care. Thanks so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Who is Carolyn Aronson?
Well, Carolyn Aronson, as you mentioned, stylist first, but really I'm a mother. I'm a multi
Boating yachts.
Yes, definitely. So ultimately, anything that you can basically make better within an industry, within actually the item itself, anything that you can create something with and make it better, you can make money with it. So you have to have that mindset when you're actually in the business world, and that's how you become a serial entrepreneur. I happen to love music. My partner loves music, and so we started a record label. We have a lot of friends within that industry, and it was just very organic for us. I also created multiple hair care brands. I have a makeup line. I have a hair extensions line. Recently started in the men's grooming industry. Started it's called Rewind at 10, a hair and beard color, raising the bar within that sector for men. And I partnered with Fat Joe and my partner Jeff Aronson on that, my husband. So yeah, so really, anytime you can bring something to an industry that's going to make it better, you too can live the American dream. That's the reality of it.
I love that. Look, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you come back. I'm sitting here with Carolyn Aronson, CEO, founder of It's a 10. All right, guys, welcome back to Financial Freestyle. And I'm sitting here with none other than Carolyn Aronson. So, look, one thing that's just so prevalent now is everybody and their auntie is an entrepreneur, right? You turn on social media, oh, don't work the 9 to 5, become an entrepreneur, right? And I think that leads a lot of people astray. So maybe you could give some insight on that.
I agree with you 1,000%. First of all, everyone's a CEO right now. You look on LinkedIn, it's like CEO, CEO, CEO. Okay. But ultimately, I agree with you because the determination and grit is one thing, but having the ability to stay the course and to withstand time is a whole nother thing. As you mentioned, I think within the first few years, most businesses fail. I think that really to be within the top 1 or 2%, it's a whole different mindset. And it's more than just persistence, perseverance, all the P's, right? They talk about those. I think the people that are in the top few percent just don't think the same. We think outside of the box. We think really, really big. And we also tend to think in a way, I think that the average person doesn't really comprehend because we don't have the average fear. I think most people actually think they want to be an entrepreneur, but then when it gets time to put on the big boy pants, they get scared, and they aren't willing to take those risks. The risks are endless. When I first started out, the risks were in the thousands. The risks I take today are in the hundreds of thousands. Risks never go away when you're an entrepreneur. So if you have the mindset that you're going to be constantly, oh, if I could just get to here, oh, if I could just get another $50,000 to do this with it, or then all my problems will be solved. No, the problems don't go away. They just get more zeros after them. And so, but ultimately, that's exciting to me. I actually, love to take risk. So I think people that have, really, really, truly successful entrepreneurs almost have an oblivion to the average thing that most people do. So it's just very different.
I love that, right? Like, to a degree, you're on a spectrum, right? Where it's like courage and insanity
Yes.
when you're really betting on yourself. And on top of that, you got the naysayers saying, oh, don't do that. You're not going to be successful. And to that point, you're like, I'm the only one that's still believing. And so now at at your maturity in terms of all your businesses, what's giving you that courage to still say, you know what? Sure, it's a 6-figure risk, but I'm gonna still keep betting on myself.
Well, actually, the more successful you get, the easier it is, right? Because
that.
now I have the deep pockets, and I have the relationships, and I have the buying power. I mean, these are all things I didn't have originally. I was just a little guy no one believed in. So now I can walk into a room and negotiate real big contracts because I have those relationships and those buying powers. So truthfully, it's really in the beginning as to when you have to have that oblivion. You have to, it's even more so than just, I believe in myself. It is literally, you don't even think the way the average person thinks. It doesn't even ruffle your feathers to literally figure out. And I mean, figure out because you're constantly figuring out. I'm still figuring out to this day. That's what we do for a living. We put out fires, we figure out a way, and we learn how to zig when they're zagging. That's what entrepreneurs do. So that mindset has to be there from the beginning, and you really have to get over some really big challenges that maybe you never even thought were going to come your way. What happens over the years is you become more attuned to them, you become better at navigating them, and like I mentioned, you've got the money and the relationships to really do it quickly.
Well, to the average viewer, they probably can't relate to, how you scaled and now you have the buying power. Now you have um, the Rolodex, right? The, the
Right.
the network that could actually help a business. But when we thinking about scaling, right? Once again, we talked about being able to go to the bank, finance, or actually raise equity. But one of the things you talked about earlier was the fact that you actually leverage your real estate,
That's
your
right.
portfolio early on for your very first business, right? And so let's actually talk about that. And the reason I say it is because now, right, people, you might be able to get an SBA loan, you do this, you do that. But I don't know if that
Or
was
bring in venture. I mean, people,
yeah.
listen, there's minority venture capitalists out there would love to invest in minority businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know what? My mindset was I was a scrapper. So I figured out how to flip things. And, I started young flipping cars when I first started driving. I was always flipping everything. Buy low, sell high, basic economics. That's what you should do in life
Mm-hmm.
from the moment you start working. So anything that you're acquiring, maybe figure out how maybe you could sell it for equal or more later.
Mm-hmm.
So buy it low. And so really I started doing that with real estate in my 20s. My very first condo was an apartment that converted into a condo, and I really fixed it up. I mean, I made it cute for young people because they were the only people living there. And so I really gave it a nice flair, and I ended up flipping it for a profit. And then I just started doing that in real estate. And another thing I did, you know what? I lived to my means. I
Mm-hmm.
drove old cars. I bought a really good condition one, but I had one car for 10 years, but I was buying real estate. You see, it's a priority. How can you invest into things that are going to make you money, not just cost you money? And so that mindset led me to have the ability to really invest in my first salon. I put up my condo as collateral. The bank was like, not going to hand me $150,000. I literally had that much equity in my home at the time and wrote it off. Now that's you're putting up your entire life, your whole savings at that point, and your home. I could have lost everything, but I've just done that again and again and again in my lifetime. I'm still doing it now.
Wow, that's so remarkable. All right, so let's actually talk to the entrepreneurs again, right? Obviously, to become a successful entrepreneur, it's a mindset thing, right? To have longevity, you obviously have to, once again, you're on a spectrum of being insane as well as extremely right place, right time. But let's actually talk about kind of what maybe are the five things a person needs to do from a checklist standpoint. Is it business plan? Is it, you found a competitive advantage or this? Like, what would you say to that young entrepreneur starting out? Like, look, this is what you definitely have to do in order to be successful.
Well, I think first of all, make sure whatever market you're going into, research it.
Mm,
Make sure there's a need for it. Make sure it's something that people will desire. Is there something within that industry that you can make better? That's number one. So make sure what you're actually driving towards is actually going to be a very viable thing within our society.
mhm,
People have a lot of great ideas, but sometimes, you know what? People just aren't interested in them.
mhm,
So that's number one. And then from there, as I mentioned before, making sure when you start a company, start it up. When you make sure it's properly set up,
mhm,
make sure you do the legal things properly because you never know. Eventually, maybe it's only a year or two down the road, it could be worth a lot of money. And if you haven't done things properly, there are people that can take it from you if it's not properly set up. So, there's just a lot of things business wise that you should educate yourself about. And not only that, be willing to educate yourself on maybe some things that you don't even really know about. Accounting,
mm,
business law. Go take some basic courses because those are things that are going to help you run your business. I was very fortunate to have a father that actually gave me a wonderful foundation in business mindset. So he always told me, certain things like pay yourself first, which means make sure you save and make sure you build your empire. It's not what you have, it's what you do with what you have. That was the mindset. He also sat me down and taught me how to use Quicken and then QuickBooks.
Wow.
Those things I use to this day. I did my own taxes. He taught me how to do my own taxes. I was an independent contractor. I was 1099. I had to pay quarterlies. I had to make sure I had medical insurance. Learning those basic things within a business rather than just hiring people to do it helps you to understand how your own business runs. And you should have a tab on your own business at all times. Know how to read a balance sheet, know how to read a P&L, know what EBITDA is. Like, understand your machine and how it runs. And that will help you set your business up and keep it running.
I love that. So obviously, if you could go back in time, right? What advice are you giving to 18-year-old Carolyn?
Oh my goodness, 18-year-old Carolyn. I think as I mentioned before, is the sky is the limit. And so prepare yourself for what can come. I always say, put yourself in the way of success. And you can start doing that at 18 years old. So much of success is really what you learn along the way because you're constantly learning. And you know what? I always say, fly like an eagle, you don't flock with the seagulls, right? Surround yourself with the people who actually you can learn from, who are already successful, who are where you wish you could be someday. That's who you need to hang out with and literally live and breathe it. My husband jokes, he says, "Oh, you, I'm married to the world's biggest sponge." That's what he describes me as. And that mindset, when you're constantly just soaking up around you what you can learn and how you can be better. I'm still being better, like trying to be better every day. It's part of it.
I love it. What advice do you give when it comes to balance, right? You're a mogul while simultaneously being in a family, a mother of five. Let's talk about how you find balance.
Yeah, I mean, and especially for women, it can be a real challenge. Originally, when I started my first companies, they were run from my home. And so that mindset really maybe finding something that you can do where you're partially at home, or at least making sure that you have a supportive team around you, asking for help. Women, we always think we can do it all, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help. So setting up that system that can give you that support, especially as you grow. Because, and listen, being there for my family is a major, major importance to me. Like I was just telling, my friend here, there's not a time where I don't pick up my phone when my kids call or my husband calls. I may cut them off short, like, hey, okay, it's not time to chat about that. But just making sure you're there for them as well. And so that balance is asking for help.
I love that. Well, listen, guys, I want to say thank you guys for joining, but more importantly, a really special thank you to Miss Carolyn Aronson. Make sure you guys are here next week. Once again, thanks for joining us here on Financial Freestyle. It's your boy Ross Mack, and I'll see you guys here next week.
Thank you, Ross.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.
The Federal Reserve unveiling changes to its original plan on capital requirements for banks, scaling them back. Fed Vice Chair for Supervision Michael Barr saying the proposed changes would, quote, better balance the benefits and costs of capital in light of comments received. However, big banks we know came under pressure in today's trade. as JP Morgan voices a cautious outlook for next year. And joining me now is David Conrad, Managing Director at KBW, Stifel Company. David, you are just the man to talk to today because your coverage universe, David, in focus, making a lot of headlines, different threads. I actually did want to start with JP Morgan. So JP Morgan's president, David, he's at a conference and he says, you know what, I think analysts might be just a bit too rosy here, I guess, in their projections of next year's net interest income, expenses. What did you make of those comments, David?
Yeah, well, we are actually below the street for 2025 in NII, but basically what's gone on here is, first of all, JP Morgan's one of the top financials globally, and getting really stronger almost every day. But what happened this past year is their guidance kept being raised because they're asset sensitive. The forward curve didn't materialize, and the Fed really didn't cut rates yet, obviously, this year. So their estimates this year beat expectations. But now, as we're looking, going forward, we're expecting 3 to 4 cuts, perhaps in this fourth quarter, and then cuts next year as well. So some of the asset-sensitive names will feel some pressure as we go into next year on their NII.
And let me get your take on another name, David. So I know J.P. Morgan, I believe you're on the sidelines, but another name you cover also made news. Goldman, that's a name you like. Goldman's chief also making comments saying, listen, maybe trading revenue could fall 10% in Q3. Your reaction to those comments, David?
Yeah, there's a couple things there. That was a little bit disappointing. Obviously, trading's a little more of a volatile number, and they were coming off of
It's whether we use rate reconstruction or not. And the drop was even higher for 1% lows. Yes, you can use.
王小姐，25岁，住在北京。她的妈妈50岁，爸爸53岁。他们都是老师，在学校工作。王小姐是医生，她在医院工作，每天工作8小时。王小姐很漂亮，她很喜欢她的工作，同事都很喜欢她。星期一，王小姐早上8点去医院上班。医院里有很多人。下午，她和同事有很多班。医院里有很多人。下午，她和同事说再见，回家吃饭。星期二，下雨，天气不好，医院里没有很多人。王小姐今天的工作不多，她在和同事说话。同事说她有一只猫。星期三下午5点，她和朋友去看电影。他们都爱看电影。7点，他们去饭店吃饭。饭店在电影院前面。饭店的菜很好吃。星期四，王小姐很高兴，天气很好，她想去商店买东西。 下午6点，他去商店买水果。他买了一些苹果。他很喜欢吃苹果。星期五，王小姐不工作。现在是上午10点，她在睡觉。今天很冷，她不想出门。她在家喝茶、看书、学习，和朋友打电话。星期六，王小姐不工作。她的爸爸妈妈也不工作。他们去商店买东西。她的爸爸喜欢喝茶。他买了一些茶。她的妈妈想买衣服。王小姐有很多衣服，她不想买衣服。星期日，王小姐上午在医院工作，下午去学校学习。学校在医院后面。她每个星期在这儿学习4个小时。学校前面有一家商店，商店很大，里面有很多漂亮的杯子。王小姐问杯子多少钱？她买了一个20块的杯子。玛丽今年18岁，她是美国人，和爸爸妈妈住在北京。她的爸爸是老师，妈妈是医生。2015年，他们来中国工作。玛丽和他们一起来中国学习。他们有一只狗，小狗很可爱，名字叫乐乐。玛丽很喜欢和它一起玩。他们来中国快6年了，认识了很多好朋友。他们经常一起吃饭、喝茶。玛丽的爸爸喜欢看书，妈妈喜欢看电影、买东西。玛丽喜欢听歌、学中文。玛丽会说中文，也会写字。她在大学学习很好，同学和老师都很喜欢她。下个月是妈妈的生日，她想给妈妈买一件礼物，但是她没有很多钱。 学校后面有一家饭店。他上午8点去学校学习，下午4点去饭店。